carburetor today. Now, because I'm going to be using a different kind of chemical here, I'm going to put on some latex gloves. Always good for the extra protection. It's always good to put on safety goggles too, because you will get spray back on this. You can get it in your eyes and it's not pleasant. So, now that I got my gloves on, first thing you want to do is come over to the back side here, and there's 4 screws on here. Sometimes you'll have lock nuts, sometimes you'll have screws. I'm going to go ahead and take these out. Set them off to the side here. Also, when you're doing this, just make sure it's a well ventilated area. You know, you don't want to be breathing in all these different chemicals. So now that you got that off, sometimes it'll come off easy, sometimes you'll have to pop it loose. But inside here, you got the diaphragm. This is a new diaphragm I just got. Just doing this video to show you guys how to clean it. So, still nice and clean. Gonna take that, set it off to the side here. You also have a little screw in here, or sorry, a little spring, and a little protectant washer that goes on top of the spring just to keep it from damaging your diaphragm. So you're gonna take that off. Now that that's removed, I'm gonna turn it over. I'm gonna take out this right here. This is what holds in place the piece to control your choke. So I'm going to take this off. Set that off to the side. And there's a little screw right here for this one. I'm going to take that off. So I can remove this part also. Just take that, set it off to the side. I'm also going to take this off. This right here, you want to keep in mind how many screws and how many tightens you put on it. Now this is your adjustment. So just be careful with the spring, keep tension on the screw so it doesn't go flying off. It's not really going to, but safety Sallies will always get on you about it. The screw is plenty long. So you take that off, see how it's nice and long. Got some little bit of grit on there, so got to get that cleaned up. Take my spring, set it off to the side here. Not worried about removing anything else. So I'm going to start taking my brake cleaner here. You can use carb cleaner, it's recommended, but you can also use brake cleaner. Just take it, spray it on there. And this stuff's fast drying, fast absorbing. Gets rid of all the grit. It works really great. You know, I like brake fluid because it's cheaper and it will really get stuff cleaned. So this is just your cap. You want to take that off. And now I'm going to take my little plastic piece in here so I can really get in the grooves. And you want to take some, put it in here where your adjustment's at. Now one thing I do have on here, this is a bread tie. I went ahead and stripped the plastic off of it so I can use this to get inside here and clean this. You know, a little copper wire will work good too. You just want to make sure this is nice and cleaned out, because this is the part where your fuel sits in the shorter bay. So after the fuel travels up here, it comes down through the carburetor, comes back down into the tank through up here, and then it's sucked back up into the carburetor here and fed to the engine. So you want to make sure you get that nice and clean. Put this towel up here a little bit. Looks like we got that nice and free. Gonna turn it over. I want to get in here with it. Spray it up in this direction. It'll come out where your choke's at. Spray it in the other direction. Really just want to try to get out all gunk possible. I'm gonna take this back off. Clean this whole area off. I use an old toothbrush. Just helps to wipe some of it away. Just old gasket residue, and this thing was completely packed full of rust when I got it. It was in such bad condition. I was debating on whether or not it would be worth it to rebuild the engine. And I decided to take on the project because I had a storm come through and a tree fall on my house and had no wood chipper. Insurance did give us some money, but they really only gave us enough to fix the damage that I had to the roof. You know, it would have been nice to have them take care of a little bit more, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Now put this back on here. Get it down in this little groove. Now you don't want to get too much up on here because this is corrosive to plastic, and your little fuel pipe down here that goes on with a little pinch clamp is plastic, but that's nice and clear. Just wanted to make sure. Now I want to get this as clean as possible because I am going to be resealing the gasket on the bottom. I've already done it once. I'm just making this video to show you the proper way to do it. Some people will take razor blades and everything else to bring this off. If you do that, you have a risk of scratching the metal and causing damage. I just like to use not a real sharp, but a kind of flattened off flathead, so it doesn't come to a real point, but you can still get scraping on there to get some of the gasket off. Over here on this side you have a little ball bearing. You can just see the tip of it right there. You want to get that nice and cleaned and able to move. That's another place where the brush comes in handy. Because not only are you forcing the cleaner in there, you're moving it. I do want to make sure more than anything else that I get this chamber right here really clean, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this again on the top. Definitely some gunk that was what's left in there. It's one of the parts that I was unsure about cleaning when I first started. I'm not a small motor expert or anything of the sort. I just like to take some pride in my work. Get a little spray in there. As you can see, there's still some gunk that came off of it. Now that we got that cleaned, your adjustment bolt here, just hit the tip of that with it. Wipe it off on the towel. Get it clean. Just make sure it's not corroded or anything. And I'm going to go ahead and take the cap off. And just hit the carburetor itself on the outside with this. This piece up here is plastic, so I'm going to get that cleaned off pretty quickly. But otherwise, it dries really quick. So you don't really have to worry about this stuff sitting around. Brake cleaner is a great cleaner for your carburetor, amongst many other things. It's also great on rust, and it's just endless things you can use it for. So like I said, if you want to go and get a carburetor cleaner, that's fine. That's what they made it for. But brake cleaner will work just fine. I actually do a great job on it, and it's not going to tear paint or anything else, which is fantastic. So I'm going to hit the inside of this again. Brake fluid you can also use as a starter fluid. It's better on small motors. You do not want to use starter fluid on small motors. So if you use something like a brake fluid that's lower potency than starter fluid, got a little bit here on the side. Where your fuel fills in. Just get that cleaned off really well. And you can see all the grit on there. This was a brand new white towel. Don't worry. Wife's not going to yell at me too bad about it. So now that you got that done, just inspect your diaphragm again. It's fine. Diaphragm only goes on here one way, so you don't have to worry about putting it on wrong or anything else of the sort. Your two little flaps right here are also on your diaphragm, so you just take this end, put it right over this peg, and just set it in place. I'm actually going to take my gloves off. So, take your spring, drop it down in there. Take your little washer, set it on top. That protects your diaphragm. Then take your little gasket and just set it in place on there. Then you take your top piece after you try to get this aligned as best as possible. And just set it down in place there. Then you just want to hand tighten your screws in place. Make sure you're keeping the gasket in the same spot so it's not frayed or hanging out a corner, and that way you just get a nice seal on it. like I said, it is a new diaphragm, so I'm not worried about replacing that. After you get them all hand tightened on there, just go ahead and tighten them up. They don't need to be knuckle whitening tight on here. Just get them tight because there are lock washers. That way you get a good seal on the gasket. After you've done that, you can go ahead and flip it back over. You take your bolt here for your choke adjustment. Slide the spring back on. Put it down in place. I hand tighten mine. Really don't need a screwdriver for this. Just remember the angle and spot of your spring. There's also adjustments in the manual you can read on it too. It'll help direct you. And after you get that piece on, you want to go ahead and take this, making sure that this little loop right here is facing outwards, because that's where it'll plug into a little bit later. One of your parts will just sit down in there, so you're gonna need that. I always put it on the lower hole. And you just take that screw. It's tightened by hand, so just gonna put a little tension on it, because you still want this to move pretty easy. I'm gonna take a little bit off of there. And that's fine right there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take this piece, which was back here, and I'm not really concerned about washing these. You just take this piece, this loop will go upwards, sits right down in a little groove right here. Take your nut, put it back in there. After you get it in place, just go ahead and just tighten it, just so it's snug. And there you go. That's how you clean out a carburetor. It's all nice and good to go. I'm gonna set the linkages back up and put it back in place. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you want. If not, thanks for watching the video. I hope I showed you something today. Have a good one.